Section 13 of Further Chronicles of Avonlea. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Further Chronicles of Avonlea by Lucy Maud Montgomery. Chapter 7. The Return of Hester, Part 1. Just at dusk that evening, I had gone upstairs and put on my muslin gown. I had been busy all day attending to the strawberry preserves, for Mary Sloane could not be trusted with that, and I was a little tired, and thought it was hardly worth while to change my dress, especially since there was nobody to see or care since Hester was gone. Mary Sloane did not count. But I did it because Hester would have cared if she had been here. She always liked to see me neat and dainty. So although I was tired and sick at heart, I put on my pale blue muslin and dressed my hair. At first I did my hair up in a way I had always liked, but had seldom worn because Hester had disapproved of it. It became me, but I suddenly felt as if it were disloyal to her, so I took the puffs down again and arranged my hair in the plain, old-fashioned way she had liked. My hair, though it had a good many gray threads in it, was thick and long and brown still, but that did not matter. Nothing mattered, since Hester was dead and I had sent Hugh Blair away for the second time. The Newbridge people all wondered why I had not put on mourning for Hester. I did not tell them it was because Hester had asked me not to. Hester had never approved of mourning. She said that if the heart did not mourn, crape would not mend matters, and if it did, there was no need of the external trappings of woe. She told me calmly the night before she died to go on wearing my pretty dresses just as I had always worn them, and to make no difference in my outward life because of her going. "I know there will be a difference in your inward life," she said wistfully. Oh, there was, but sometimes I wondered uneasily, feeling almost conscience-stricken, whether it were wholly because Hester had left me, whether it were not partly because, for a second time, I had shut the door of my heart in the face of love at her bidding. When I had dressed, I went downstairs to the front door, and sat on the sandstone steps under the arch of the Virginia creeper. I was all alone, for Mary Sloane had gone to Avonlea. It was a beautiful night. The full moon was just rising over the wooded hills, and her light fell through the poplars into the garden before me. Through an open corner on the western side, I saw the sky all silvery blue in the afterlight. The garden was very beautiful just then, for it was the time of the roses, and ours were all out, so many of them, great pink and red and white and yellow roses. Hester had loved roses, and could never have enough of them. Her favorite bush was growing by the steps, all gloried over with blossoms, white, with pale pink hearts. I gathered a cluster and pinned it loosely on my breast. But my eyes filled as I did so. I felt so very, very desolate. I was all alone, and it was bitter. The roses, as much as I loved them, could not give me sufficient companionship. I wanted the clasp of a human hand, and the love light in human eyes. And then I fell to thinking of Hugh, though I tried not to. I had always lived alone with Hester. I did not remember our parents, who died in my babyhood. Hester was 15 years older than I, and she had always seemed more like a mother than a sister. She had been very good to me, and had never denied me anything I wanted, save the one thing that mattered. I was 25 before I ever had a lover. This was not, I think, because I was more unattractive than the other women. The Merediths had always been the big family of Newbridge. The rest of the people looked up to us because we were the granddaughters of old Squire Meredith. The Newbridge young men would have thought it no use to try to woo a Meredith. I had not a great deal of family pride, as perhaps I should be ashamed to confess. I found our exalted position very lonely, and cared more for the simple joys of friendship and companionship which other girls had. But Hester possessed it in a double measure. She never allowed me to associate on the level of equality with the young people of Newbridge. We must be very nice and kind and affable to them, noblesse oblige, as it were, but we must never forget that we were Merediths. When I was 25, Hugh Blair came to Newbridge, having bought a farm near the village. He was a stranger from Lower Carmody, and so was not imbued with any preconceptions of Meredith's superiority. In his eyes I was just a girl like others, a girl to be wooed and won by any man of clean life and honest heart. I met him at a little Sunday school picnic over at Avonlea, which I attended because of my class. I thought him very handsome and manly. He talked to me a great deal, and at last he drove me home. The next Sunday evening he walked up from church with me. Hester was away, or of course this would never have happened. She had gone for a month's visit to distant friends. In that month I lived a lifetime. Hugh Blair courted me as the other girls in Newbridge were courted. He took me out driving, and came to see me in the evenings, which we spent for the most part in the garden. I did not like the stately gloom and formality of our old Meredith parlour, and Hugh never seemed to feel at ease there. His broad shoulders and hearty laughter were oddly out of place among our faded, old-maidish furnishings. Mary Sloane was very much pleased at Hugh's visit. She had always resented the fact that I had never had a beau, seeming to think it reflected some slight or disparagement upon me. She did all she could to encourage him. But when Hester returned and found out about Hugh, she was very angry, and grieved, which hurt me far more. She told me that I had forgotten myself, and that Hugh's visits must cease. I had never been afraid of Hester before, but I was afraid of her then. I yielded. Perhaps it was very weak of me, but then I was always weak. I think that was why Hugh's strength had appealed so to me. I needed love and protection. Hester, strong and self-sufficient, had never felt such a need. She could not understand. Oh, how contemptuous she was! I told Hugh timidly that Hester did not approve of our friendship, and that it must end. He took it quietly enough, and went away. I thought he did not care much, and the thought selfishly made my own heartache worse. I was very unhappy for a long time, but I tried not to let Hester see it, and I don't think she did. She was not very discerning in some things. After a time I got over it, that is, the heartache ceased to ache all the time. But things were never quite the same again. Life always seemed rather dreary and empty, in spite of Hester and my roses and my Sunday school. I supposed that Hugh Blair would find him a wife elsewhere, but he did not. The years went by, and we never met, although I saw him often at church. At such times Hester always watched me very closely, but there was no need of her to do so. Hugh made no attempt to meet me or speak with me, and I would not have permitted it if he had. But my heart always yearned after him. I was selfishly glad he had not married, because if he had, I could not have thought and dreamed of him. It would have been wrong. Perhaps as it was foolish, but it seemed to me that I must have something, if only foolish dreams, to fill my life. At first there was only pain in the thought of him, but afterwards a faint, misty pleasure crept in, like a mirage from a land of lost delight. End of section 13.